February 2nd, 2025. Tactics, Part 6. Targeted Individuals, the Hidden Evil. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Hope everybody's doing well. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. I'm going to do Part 6, Synchronization. And let's see, I might do... and the Harassment Skits. So we're going to do Synchronization and the Harassment Skits. So much fun. Groups will try to synchronize their tactics with things that targets do, such as entering or leaving their homes. The target's movements will be synchronized with vehicles or people coming and going or other movements. These synchronization tactics are often done several times, perhaps 3 or more. For instance, when the target arrives, 2 cars will drive down their street while their next-door neighbor leaves. If a target has a habit of going to the bathroom at 2 a.m. and looking out his bathroom window at a specific area, then they will eventually arrange it so that there is some activity, such as a light being switched on or someone leaving or arriving in that area. This is an example of the level of detail that they will resort to when tailoring a harassment protocol to the profile of the target. Synchronization is also used with sensitivity tactics and noise. For instance, if you're targeted, you'll hear an ambulance or a fire truck sirens the moment you enter or leave your house, or car alarms, hammering, or some other noise will occur as you look out the window. As you leave your home, you may notice people walking by wearing a color or holding an object that you've been sensitized to. If you pull into a parking lot, there will usually be cars arriving or leaving. Synchronization is also used with blocking and crowding. For instance, as you approach a store's entrance, people will either be walking in or leaving. They will often be wearing a color or holding an object that you've been sensitized to. A variation of this is echoing and mirroring. Like other forms of nonverbal communication, echoing and mirroring are very powerful, but usually unconscious ways of interrelating. This form of information exchange has been outlined in the book Secrets of Sexual Body Language, Understanding Nonverbal Communication by Martin Lloyd Elliott. Most of us speak this language without even knowing it to attract others. However, this form of communication has evidently been incorporated into this program as a tool to annoy targets. With echoing, for instance, if a target is in a restaurant or in a public transportation and they drink, then an informant next to them will drink. If they pull out a cell phone, then the informant will produce a cell phone or a similar device. I call it copycatting. It's like a copycat thing. They watch what you're doing and then they do the same thing. When the target pulls away, so do they. In essence, they will mimic the movements of a target. With mirroring, for example, targets may frequently have a person or group of people walking parallel to them in the same direction or other side of the street or any public area. Also, there may be someone directly in front of the target and approaching the same intersection that they're approaching. The informants adjust their timing so they approach at the same time and cross the street just as the target does, at which point crowding may occur. The informants may also be wearing red, holding a cell phone or other device, which the target has been sensitized to. Dr. Alexander and Jane Morris also spoke of the use of mirroring to influence people in their book, The Warrior's Edge. The next heading is Harassment Skits, or the street theater. Commonly used routes are used as avenues for various types of street theater that unfold as targets pass through. Or, like in my case, you could just be hanging out on your own property and then you've got the loser morons driving back and forth, performing their skits on the county road. Street theater is used during group stalking and contains verbal and nonverbal harassment, threats, insults, intimidation, and violence conveyed overtly or covertly using themes, symbolism, or other medium. They may be carried out after the target has been sensitized using NLP. This harassment can be relayed with metaphors, verbal remarks, and symbolism using clothing or other items. Targets may be stalked by a network of people who frequently stomp their feet, clear their throat, or cough, even in the middle of the summer, to indicate that they're part of the program. Stalkers may be speaking on their cell phones and loudly accent the insult as they walk by and stare at the targeted people. Blatant, hostile, smirking stares are also common. And we all know that that smirk is symbolic of the narcissist. Sometimes they may not be on the phone and may just overtly stalk you as they walk by. As an example, I have people walk by me and say things like, F you, F up, F head, you're disgusting, etc. I've also witnessed them spit in my direction as I walk by them, and have seen this spitting tactic used by teenagers who would spit on the lawn while I was on the front porch as they passed by my former residence. Some words carry with them a particular weight to potentially trigger an effect on the person's emotional state. For instance, if you're at a restaurant, you may have a couple sit down at the table next to you, and they might mention some events that are taking place in your personal life in order to get your attention. After that, they may make repeated references, words such as paranoid, crazy, scared, panic, insane, freak, sad, depressed, etc. The idea is that the words will invoke emotion. Not only is this possible, but it works best when you don't know it's being done to you. This tactic appears to be a variation of a pacing technique used in hypnosis. It involves first linking something to the subject's ongoing experience or personal life, and then using certain words intended to evoke a particular response. Morris and Alexander refer to these words as quote-unquote verbal anchors and state, quote, verbal anchors can also be effective tools. Words such as freeze or duck transmit complete messages. Verbal anchors can elicit both positive and negative states, unquote. In addition to these words can be emphasized by changing their tone and volume when they're spoken so that some words are slightly louder and spoken longer than others. This can completely change the meaning of a message. This is called meta communication. Meta messages are suggestions hidden in a statement, perhaps a compliment. The tone, volume, and rhythm of the specific words in the sentence are changed so that the actual message is different than the spoken words are. It's hard to defend against the anger and disapproval expressed in negative meta messages, stated McKay, Davis, and Fanning in their book Messages, the Communication Skills book. The attack is often so subtle that you aren't aware of exactly that you've been hurt. The basic function of meta messages, quote, they say, is to say something covertly that you're afraid to say directly. Since meta message attack is covert, there is little chance of overt retaliation. These meta messages are quite similar to indirect embedded messages used in hypnosis. In the book Patterns of Hypnotic Techniques of Milton H. Erickson, MD, Richard Bandler and John Grinder provide examples of a master hypnotist named Erickson. Describing this type of covert communication, they write, quote, embedded commands serve the purpose of making suggestions to the client indirectly and thereby making it difficult to resist it in any way. These are most effective when they are also marked analogically by emphasizing the command and by looking intently at the listener, if their eyes are open. It appears a variation of this message can be conveyed with multiple people blitzing a person with cutoffs while talking on their cell phones, looking directly at the person, and emphasizing meta communication weighted words, and or information about the person's personal life that was obtained from surveillance. Groups will also use these phony conversations to harass targets in stores, restaurants, public places, elevators, etc. McKinney wrote of recurrent negative comments by strangers that are apparently intended to evoke feelings of quote-unquote paranoia. She also wrote in her report that the stalkers operate in large groups over a long period of time, seemingly with the support of the government. Bandler and Grinder describe a positive use of this tactic when quoting Erickson addressing an anxious patient with, quote, "My friends tell me to feel comfortable and to loosen up when we're out on the town," unquote. Notice that the italicized words are emphasized when spoken. This tactic can be used even if the intended subject is not being addressed directly, hence the name indirect embedded command. Again, something about the target's personal life or real-time ongoing experience is mentioned near him or her, so he will identify himself as the subject. Then weighted words conveying insults are used. These covert public mocking tactics using trigger words, which are intended to evoke negative emotions, are based on NLP hypnosis and seem to be the result of an in-depth study of hypnosis by the CIA, which occurred during the MK Ultra period. When we hear something, even from another conversation, we can't help but make images and sounds out in our head, announced Andreas and Faulkner. The professional persuader knows this intuitively. The NLP, we know it explicitly, and they affirm. You cannot communicate. The use of NLP hypnosis by these citizen stalkers, as directed by their handlers, is obviously intended to drive people insane. I don't know, folks. They're not driving me insane. They are obviously insane. Victor Santoro explains how these tactics can be used in a destructive format as a way to, quote-unquote, foster your target's paranoia and suggest he's being mocked, he explains. If you can't get several accomplices to do that, he'll get the feeling that mockery and ridicule of him are widespread. Santero's book seems to have some accurate information pertaining to this program, which makes me wonder if at some point he was employed as an intelligence agent. At any rate, the hidden evil was obviously designed by experts in the behavioral sciences. After a target has been sensitized, they can even be harassed, insulted, and threatened with symbolism, using articles of clothing, newspapers, and other items. You know, like the triangles they leave around here and the letter V and phallic symbols and stuff like that. These people are sick, depraved loonies. They're the perverts. Just as body communication, social kinetics is used to harass the target, so too is symbolic communication. Symbolism can be used with articles of clothing, especially during a wave attack, where the target is blitzed by a crowd of informants who smile, laugh, stare at them, and cut them off as they pass. Some of the messages I've noticed on apparel include "Stop and Die," "Big Bro," "Watch Your Back," as well as satanic, Freemasonry, and Wicca symbols. An attention-getting tactic may be used. It can be a cutoff, a blatant stare, a loud noise, or other sensitivity tactics. Remember how the perpetrators at the YMCA both used an attention-getting tactic? One man gave me a smirking stare, and the other two swarmed me. In essence, they will take an event that is unfolding in a target's personal life and make references to it using a number of methods. Interestingly, an article in the San Francisco Bay Guardian on October 22, 2004, entitled "The New COINTELPRO," stated similar that attacks were being used on protesters at anti-corporate rallies. The theme may pertain to something in your personal life. They may play on this theme for a single day, a series of days, or weeks. In addition, they may choose a theme and try to project it into your life. Personally, I doubt that most of the citizens who are used to flash these images are even aware of their meaning. And then there's some footnotes here. This idea was taken from Gary Allen's book, None Dare Call It a Conspiracy. Words such as crowding and space invasion have not been specifically mentioned in the material which I found relating to East German and Russian citizens' watch networks, so this seems to be a new tactic, which is now used worldwide by these global stalking groups. Although the book Stasi Land by Anna Funder does hint that at least one target regularly experiences this type of crowding attack, he also wrote of the use of sting bombs to induce gagging or vomiting and infesting the dwellings of targeted individuals with insects. I can check mark all of those things. Yes, all of those things they do here. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this part 6, The Hidden Evil, the financial elite's covert war against the civilian population. This is dated 2009 by Mark M. Rich. So if you have any questions and comments, leave them down below. Please remember to hit the thumbs up. It helps the channel grow, get the message out there, and I will talk to you soon.